Good evening, everybody, from the summit of Mount Washington. I am meteorologist Amy Cotter, here today to talk to you a little bit about what we can expect for this weekend's hopefully winter weather. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at what's going on the summit right now and also what we've experienced today on the summit. So here behind me is our current summit conditions page. And this page tells us a little bit about what we're experiencing here on the summit today in terms of wind, temperature, visibility, and lots of other things. So our wind speed right now on the summit is right around 53 or 54 miles per hour. So 54 mile per hour sustained wind speeds on the summit right now. So it is a little bit breezy. But if we take a look at temperatures, our temperature on the summit right now is 11.2 degrees. And that 11.2 degrees has risen a little bit from earlier today. We did experience a bit of a plummet in temperatures with a passing cold front earlier in the day, but we're working our way back up and will continue to this weekend. But if we take a look at our wind gusts, so we have our 10-minute gusts as well as our 24-hour gusts. And those gusts are when that wind picks up quickly over a short period of time. So over the last 10 minutes, our highest wind gust was right around 70 miles per hour. It's a little bit faster than our sustained wind speed. And if we take a look at our 24-hour gust, we hit a peak wind gust of 86 miles per hour. So it has been a bit of a windy day up here on the summit of Mount Washington today. You can see as well as under our 24-hour data, our low temperature of right around 8 degrees. So we hit that earlier today before working our way back up to at least the double digits for now. We also have our visibility bar on this screen right here. So this visibility bar tells us how far we can see from the summit right now. And that figure is 110 miles. So that means we can see 110 miles from the summit of Mount Washington, and that is nearly our maximum visibility. Our maximum visibility is 130 miles. The only thing that limits our visibility on a day like that, on a completely clear day, 130-mile visibility, is the curvature of the Earth. Today we're not quite at that 130, but we do have a nice view of surrounding states with a visibility of 110 miles. Let's hop over to our observation deck camera right here. So this observation deck camera is showing us what's happening on the summit right now. So it looks like a pretty standard winter scene here. We've got some rime ice building up on the frame or on the sides of that window that the camera is in. We've got a little bit of snow on the observation deck. We've got some blowing snow down here that you can see as it is quite a bit windy today, and we have gotten quite a bit of snow over the past day or so. But you can see pretty far from the summit today. We are under cloudy skies, so not quite a sunny evening. Not sure if we'll get a sunset tonight, but we are currently in the clear. So let's take a look at what we're going to experience on the summit here this weekend. So this first map I'm showing you here is a surface analysis chart. So this surface analysis chart tells us a little bit about what we can expect in terms of pressure systems. So those H's and those L's represent high and low pressure. And it tells us a little bit about what we can expect, at least at the surface, in terms of precipitation. So that green shading representing rain, that blue shading representing snow. And you can see even a little bit of pink in there, which is that line of freezing rain. We also have our fronts on this map. So the most important front as we move into this weekend is going to be this stationary front you see developing right here. So that's neither a warm front nor a cold front, but that stationary front is going to stall south of our region with smaller waves of low pressure traveling along that stalled front. You can see it's going to stall south of our region. We'll be sitting up here up north on the colder side of it in the White Mountains. However, the positioning of that gradient might influence the types of precipitation we see with these waves of low pressure. But you can see as we move forward, there's quite a big section of our state here in New Hampshire that has a risk of likely freezing rain, that pink shading. We also have quite a bit of snow up north and rain down south, and you can see that stalled boundary beginning to lift up as we move into Saturday night and Sunday. And you'll see that transition to a warm front. Oh, skipped ahead there. But you'll see that transitioning to a warm front, and as that warm front lifts northward, it will eventually rise all elevations to above freezing. So all elevations will see rain likely by the end of this weekend. However, that vertical temperature profile is going to tell us a little bit about what we can expect for types at different elevations. But this map right here also gives us a big picture kind of what's going to happen this weekend. Similar to a surface map, but let's take a look. Doesn't represent that stationary front or those waves of low pressure quite as well as the surface map does, but you can see that widespread area of precipitation as we move into, this is Friday night into Saturday morning, and you can see that widespread precipitation across quite a big band of the northeastern United States. And as we move into Saturday night and Sunday, that precipitation is going to hang on for quite a while, even into the end of the forecast period and past that forecast period into the work week. So we'll see quite a bit of an extended precipitation event this weekend. But let's take a look at what we're looking at here at 6,288 feet, or right around there in the atmosphere. So this map represents right around the elevation that we are sitting at here on Mount Washington, and it represents those temperatures at our elevation. So you can see that stationary front sitting right south of us. You can even see it at our higher elevation here, moving into tonight. And as we move into tomorrow, you can see that boundary will stall just south of us, which will keep us again on that colder side. The northern New Hampshire will stay on the colder side of that stationary front. And then moving into Saturday night, you see that front start to lift, and eventually as we end out Sunday or round out our weekend, we will see higher temperatures at all elevations, and transitioning that widespread precipitation, that extended precipitation event, to just rainfall. We can zoom in on New Hampshire a little bit right here. Gives us a little less of a big picture, but it can tell us a little bit about where exactly in the state that temperature gradient will shift to throughout the weekend. And again, we are up here at Mount Washington, so this is at our elevation, not at lower elevations. But if we do want to take a look at lower elevations, let's pick a certain point to compare. All right, so this is going into Saturday night. And let's take a look at what it's going to look like at lower elevations. So going into Saturday night, the interesting thing that we can notice here with this comparison is that lower elevations will be experiencing colder temperatures. So the higher summits of New Hampshire will actually be warming a bit quicker than lower and middle elevations. So as we warm, it's going to start to fall, transition to rain. However, once that rain hits a freezing layer, it's going to fall as freezing rain. So that's why those lower and middle elevations might have a bit more freezing rain accumulation or ice accumulation from that freezing rain. And speaking of precipitation types, we can take a look at New England here in terms of 4 different precipitation types. So those 4 types that we can take a look at are up in this upper left corner, rain. This upper right will be freezing rain. We'll have blue for snow down here, and sleet in our bottom right. So let's take a look moving into tonight. That precipitation looks like it's going to start tonight as primarily snow here at higher elevations, and also at lower elevations as long as you're further north of that stationary boundary. But you can see that southern New Hampshire and southern New England is starting to get quite a bit of rain there as we move into Saturday morning. And as that warm front is going to lift, you're going to see quite a large area of freezing rain develop, as well as a wintry mix of sleet and snow. This is going into Sunday morning, And as all elevations rise above freezing before the end of the day, you'll see those rain and freezing rain accumulations start accumulating much quicker than that snowfall total right there. But you can see, based on these maps, that we'll get quite a messy mix of precipitation types this weekend with our incoming system, and that is why we do have a winter storm advisory in effect through 6 a.m. on Monday. But lastly, of course, we are on Mount Washington. We do want to keep an eye on the winds. The winds will not be the headline of this storm. However, it will be important to keep an eye on it because much like temperatures, those winds are going to be held to our south. So you can see those much stronger winds banding into our south. So with that system, that stationary boundary is hopefully going to keep those high winds to our south. But of course, they could creep up north, especially at the higher summits of New Hampshire. Moving into Sunday morning, those winds are going to pick up across the state a little later into Sunday and at the start of the work week. But again, winds won't be the headline with this precipitation event. So speaking of that precipitation event, one thing I want to highlight on our higher summits forecast page right here is our snow, sleet, and freezing ice accumulations, because those really will be the name of the game this weekend. But tonight we're expecting around 1 to 3 inches of snow accumulation with temperatures rising to the lower 20s by sunrise. Moving into tomorrow, we're expecting more snow with an additional snow accumulations of 3 to 6 inches. And then moving into Saturday night, as that warm front starts to lift and higher summits start to warm quicker than lower elevations, we'll see snow and sleet accumulations of a trace to 2 inches. So that's that messy, wintry precipitation mix coming into that forecast there. And as we move into the last day of this forecast period, our last period, Sunday, we will start with a wintry mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. But that will be transitioning to just rain in the afternoon as not just the higher summits reach above freezing, but also lower elevations. So additional snow and sleet accumulations earlier in the day of a trace to 2 inches with some possible light ice accumulations. But again, this higher summits forecast is for the higher summits of New Hampshire. So those lower and middle elevations could get a bit more freezing rain due to that vertical temperature profile that I was talking about. But again, those winds will pick up a little bit, maybe into the 45 to 60 range nearing the end of our weekend here. And those temperatures will be rising to the upper 30s, even at the higher summits of New Hampshire. So precipitation will really be the main thing we'll want to keep our eye on this weekend, moving into this winter storm advisory. But one more thing I do want to point out before I head out for the weekend and send you all off is our Big Wind Day celebration. So this coming April 12th from 3 to 6 p.m., we will be celebrating our Big Wind Day anniversary at Tuckerman Brewing in Conway, New Hampshire. So Big Wind Day celebrates the anniversary of our world record 231 mile per hour wind gust. And that world record is the highest wind speed that has ever been recorded by a staffed weather station. And that happened in 1934 right here on the summit of Mount Washington. This picture you see in the background of this slide is that older building where they did record that record-breaking wind. And at this event, if you come and celebrate Big Wind Day with us, there will be live music. We'll have our 6288 Stout launch, so our very own Mount Washington Observatory Stout. We'll have some fun educational youth activities, some weather trivia, and much more. So hope to see you there. It'll be a very fun night. Well, I hope you all enjoy your weekend despite the messy mix of precipitation. And I hope you get up to something you enjoy, whether that's at lower or higher elevations with that messy mix coming this weekend.